Go Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yao Mean of Revolution. Who killed Charlie Kirk? What's going on? All kind of lies and manipulation. Before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. You in the House of Revolution. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Salute, family. Let's get into the latest. Let's get into what the hell is going on with Charlie Kirk. Salute.
So yeah, I may not be a Charlie Kirk fan, but anybody else feel like the story that they're putting out there is bullshit? For example, they claim that Tyler turned himself into his father, and then his father reported to the authorities. And now they're saying, well, no, he never turned himself in, and the father told him to wait and turn himself into the authorities. There was also this major claim that he planned all this amongst a group of people on Discord. And then Discord spokesperson came out and said, that is not true, and that never happened. And the media just sitting there quiet like, we just not going to talk about that then. And then there's this claim that he was living with his boyfriend who was transitioning into a woman, except the fact officials also said that Robinson was living with his family in Washington County. And living with his family would make more sense considering he was going to a technical community college really close to his house and somehow could afford to buy a Dodge Challenger. At least that's the car they said that he pulled up in whenever he went to Utah Valley and allegedly committed this crime. And I know everybody's financial situation is a little bit different, but I don't know who's buying a Dodge Challenger on a student salary unless they're living with their parents and they're getting help. And we all know that they've tried to frame this as a leftist extremist attacking Charlie Kirk because he's conservative. And it's because of comments made in articles like The Guardian, except for The Guardian had to quietly retract the article. And these aren't small retractions. They had to retract the part where he said he had become more political over the years, that he and his family members had discussed not liking Charlie Kirk, where he had said that he was pretty left on everything. And basically, only these words have been any indication that he was indeed a leftist. And that's even if he committed the crime. Because when you go through his photos, when you look at his family, the fact that he actually was a gun enthusiast and things of that nature, and the fact that he lives in Mormon country, USA, he actually looked like a conservative. So now we have to go back to the part where they supposedly planned on Discord for somebody to leave a gun at the drop point. Because if the Discord story wasn't true, then who left a random sniper rifle at a drop point with shell casings inscribed? And although Tyler may have been a gun enthusiast, I would like to know how you managed to hit somebody in the neck from 200 yards out with 5 to 7 mile per hour winds on your first shot with a new gun that you are not accustomed to. And if you look at the video of him running off the roof and climbing down, that boy was haul-assing. There was no sniper in his hand. And so how did they then later find the sniper in a random forest, even though he didn't take the sniper off the roof with him after he allegedly used it to shoot Charlie Kirk? Or better yet, how do we know that was even Tyler Robinson, considering there is no clear picture of him, and despite all of these iPhones available in the world, no one can catch his face in 4K. And on top of all of this, there is actually zero forensics evidence placing Tyler at the scene of the crime. Not fingerprints, not facial recognition, not DNA, nada. And yet, there are conservatives trying to stoke the flames of division, saying that the left are violent, even Stephen Miller blaming leftist organizations and say that we should consider trying them under the RICO laws to take them down, despite there being no proof that he would even be part of a leftist organization. Maybe it's time for conservatives to actually take a step back, get out your feelings a little bit, and realize maybe you're getting played. Because despite what you might believe, this isn't leftist MO. In fact, according to law enforcement, it's white supremacists that are more likely to be domestic terror threats, not us. And you should probably be asking yourself, why, since Charlie Kirk died, did the U.S. Congress pass an amendment that bans the Pentagon boycotting Israel, propose a bill for Rubio to revoke passports for criticizing Israel, approve $650 million to Israel to give them more missile defense, and then Rubio stops everything he's doing that weekend, goes to Israel, puts on a little hat, and then puts his hand on the wall like, I ain't about to be next. I'm just saying, guys, y'all think letters of the enemy when the same people that won't release a client list, the same people who lied about Russiagate, the same people who lied about Iran having nuclear weapons, the same people who lied about Trump being part of Russiagate. I mean, the same people who lied about everything. They're all telling you it's the left's fault. So,
Revolutionary salute to our brother, Mr. Altruistic, for the donation to the war chest. Revolution is a way of life. I absolutely appreciate that love. Family, salute to you for helping me keep the lights on here in the House of Revolution. Salute, soldier. Now, this Charlie Kirk situation, been keeping my eye on it for y'all. You know, y'all know I'm going through a lot, so I can't give it to y'all like I used to every day. I'm keeping my eye on it, stockpiling for it so we can get caught up on everything. And we know they pretty much assassinated that man. I don't know if it was the CIA or if it was Mossad, though. You get to the bottom of that. But really, that's the same people.
Stone-faced in court yesterday. He was officially charged with murder, could face the death penalty in the state of Utah. He will not be released on bail, and his next hearing is at the end of September. There he was, just sort of sitting via Zoom, stone-faced, wearing a bulletproof vest. Meanwhile, the FBI released a text thread from Tyler Robinson yesterday. The thread is allegedly between Tyler and his trans lover roommate. The text thread is not what we would call convincing. It was apparently sent right after the shooting. Quote,
although we're not sure on that. There's not a timestamp, and it doesn't quite make sense. We're going to talk about this, but the way that they talk is as if the shooting has just happened, but then he references things that the FBI tells us happened the next day. So let's just put a pin in that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, take it from here.
Okay, so here's so a couple people are saying, number one, young people don't text like this with capital letters and punctuation. In my experience, that's true, but okay, that's just one reason to ask questions. Also, it's, you weren't the one who did it, right? I am. I'm sorry. That seems a little cavalier for like, wait, what? You don't call after that? You keep texting and you say, I left a note. I said exactly how I did it. I'm writing it all here and then delete this later. How stupid do you have to be? There's all kinds of, he says he wishes he could have taken this to the grave. He's saying, I need to go back for the weapon, but oh, well, I can't lose the weapon. There's a lot that just doesn't add up about this. Now, the liberal media is trying to convince us that what we're witnessing is a very sweet gay love story, to the tune of like, this should have been on Netflix. These two lovers were the sweetest things we ever saw. Watch ABC News calling the text thread very touching because the killer refers to the alleged killer says to his roommate, you are my love and I'm trying to protect you. Okay.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who was transitioning calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality.
Okay. So touching. Anyway, but here's where things get even more strange. He didn't confess to authorities, but investigators say he had confessed in a note, but that note was destroyed. But they have forensics of its existence. Like, what in the world? You know what? We want to bring in Owen Schroyer now to help us make sense of all of this and talk about some of these inconsistencies and kind of piece all of this together. Owen, your first time here on the show in a while, under your new digs. Great to have you back on the show, my friend. Welcome back.
I was honored to get the invite, and in my little interim time off here before I launch my own show, we don't have to compete against each other in the same time slot. So it's nice to actually be able to join you guys live today.
I know you're always on at the same time as us, so it was difficult getting you on here. So thrilled that you're here. Great to have you. So let's just talk about some of these inconsistencies and kind of unpack some of these things here. So let's just talk about this note. The FBI saying we had this note, we confirmed it through forensics, but now that note's been destroyed. That's one big piece of this. Can you what do you think about that piece of this story?
Well, when we heard Kash Patel's explanation of the note, it was almost so nonsensical that, to me, I kind of just said, okay, this is nonsense, and then ignored it. Because what I've learned in my career in media and trying to hunt down the truth in a world of lies is that people are always going to try to throw distractions at you, right? It's kind of like if you're moving in on somebody or you're trying to escape somebody and you throw a rock over here so it makes a noise, so they look over here, it's like, oh, what was that over here? You just threw a rock over there, and then you escape out the back door. So right. I've kind of been trained that whenever somebody, throws the object to get you to look over there while they escape out the back, you don't look over there. You stay focused on what it is that you're looking at and what it is that you're looking for. Now, having said that, obviously I did look into that. Whatever Kash's explanation of that was, it sounded nonsensical. Maybe it made sense in his own way, or he just, didn't really communicate it well. But nonetheless, when you actually read the letter, it makes even less sense. And how perfectly convenient that it seems to tie up all the loose ends of the official narrative. Isn't that quite convenient as well? And then this is a guy who's apparently just killed somebody, and he's afraid of being grounded by dad. Oh no, what's going to happen when I get home to dad and grandpa's rifle is gone? I'm going to get grounded. So right. That doesn't
You've
add
got
up
bigger
to me
fish to
either.
fry. Yeah.
Okay, wait, let's talk about this, because here's a major inconsistency, is that we are told that the parents saw pictures of the rifle and the silhouette of the alleged killer the next day. So we're talking about September 11th, I believe. The killing happened on September 10th. But this chain says he needs to go back for the gun. I've just done this. Oh no, my dad's calling. But in the timeline, the dad doesn't get suspicious until the next day. So he cannot be texting about something that happens tomorrow.
Well, and see, you've done a little more digging than I had. You listened to the object thrown across the room a little bit more than I had. I did more of a surface level evaluation and realized it was total BS. So, but it sounds like the deeper you go into it, the less and less sense it makes. And what I like to do in my analysis too, guys, is I do full spectrum analysis, and then I do possibility spectrum. And so when I think about the note, this is my possibility spectrum, in my opinion. My possibility spectrum is maybe the boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the situation was with this lover, this partner, maybe there was some other involvement, and the partner of the alleged assassin decided that they were going to concoct this stuff to try to clear maybe their own name or other people's names. So maybe they concocted this thing to try to throw the scent of the FBI off of maybe some other people that might have been involved.
Right, that's possible, because if they live together, then I can go in Clayton's computer and have a text chain with myself, right? Because iMessage syncs across devices. But he also talks about, because in the indictment it says that the family brings over this family friend who is an ex-sheriff or law enforcement, and they try to talk him into confessing. Now, this is referenced in the text chain, which seems to have happened the day before. So how does he know this is going to happen? And they're not giving us timestamps on this text chain. So right. None of that adds up.
And clearly it is fabricated. Now, that doesn't mean that the text might not have actually happened, but what they presented to us is basically a fabrication. So that gives me to the other end of the possibility spectrum, which is this was just concocted by the FBI. Now, right. That could mean that it was concocted by the FBI whole cloth and it has no basis in reality, or it was concocted by the FBI after having a conversation or two, and they try to recreate a note or a conversation that was had, whatever, and then they present it to the American public in the fashion that they see best to fit whatever it is that they're trying to sell us. But either way, I look at it as a distraction at this point. And, you know, I would still say, I don't know. The whole thing is so crazy right now. It's hard to reach any conclusions other than a few conclusions that I think it's fair to reach at this point. But, you know, I would say, you know, maybe the FBI has reached the right conclusion. Maybe the FBI has given us the right final conclusion, which is this was a left-wing assassin. So maybe that might be the case. I'm not convinced of that. That might be the odds-on favorite. But it seems like the route that they took to get there was goofy. It was silly. It was goofy. And maybe the FBI just botched this thing so badly, and law enforcement botched it. And maybe it was just botched so badly from the beginning that they're just kind of sitting there in this embarrassing moment like, guys, we got to give them something. We got to give them something. We got to cut.
Well, they absolutely botched it from the beginning. I mean, they quote unquote, you know, arrested the wrong guys, put out a press release, went out right to the podium, said, we got him, only to release him later. But there's also this narrative about his clothing. I want to talk about this clothing piece of this, which is strange on its own. So surveillance shows Robinson in a maroon t-shirt, light shorts, black cap before the shooting, apparently, allegedly. But then prosecutors say he changed outfits. And we talked to former FBI whistleblower Kyle Seraphin, who said this is part of the process. You would change outfits, like to throw people off your trail, change a ball cap, whatever, right? That would be par for the course.
Sure, Jason Bourne does that.
Yeah, then after the attack. But then later to put on the very same maroon shirt and black shorts back on by the time he was arrested. Like, what in the world? It doesn't make any sense. Changing to hide evidence and then returning to the original look that you had when you were on camera and you showed up. Like, that doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, and neither does the assembling, disassembling, reassembling, all that doesn't seem to make any sense to anybody either. Yeah, none of it adds up. And I think that that's why people are sitting here, you know, let's say conspiracy theorizing, because the official story just doesn't add up. That's a fact. And to me, the biggest smoking gun here, no pun intended, but to me, the biggest smoking gun is the footage that we're not seeing, right? Why aren't we seeing the footage of all the security cameras on campus that he was definitely on at some point? The footage of him getting up onto the roof. Why aren't we seeing the HD footage that was right there, right next to Charlie when he was shot, including the most important video in my mind, which is the HD footage from behind him? And this is a very important distinction to make for people that aren't in media. You know, you might not understand all this. I'm not trying to be insulting, but you have to understand, you have people there that are live streaming, and you have the Turning Point live streaming this event, but then you have HD cameras that are just filming, meaning they're getting full 4K resolution, as clear of a picture you can get. I count at least 3 of those filming at the time, and we have seen none of that footage, including the most important video footage, which was the HD camera set up right behind Charlie, where if you actually go back, when they destroyed the crime scene, which, by the way, was like a crime in and of itself, what they did to the crime scene, the first thing that happens is they go and they take that camera down. Who has that footage? That is the most important footage for this entire story. Who has that footage? Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, I demand that footage, and if you don't give us that footage, then it's your fault. Maybe they're holding it for a reason, and maybe they'll deliver it at some point, but they haven't yet. And to me, that's the biggest thing.
We need full transparency. Yeah, it was right after the event. As soon as he's carted off by those 6 individuals who carry him to the SUV, they immediately start taking that camera off of the tent. I think there was 2 cameras there. The one right behind him, they start disassembling and taking off. Who has that camera? Who has that footage?
We don't need this,
I think one was a camera, and I think one was a audio receiver. That's what I see when I look at it. I think one is the camera, one is an audio receiver. But either way, it doesn't change. That we know at least one of those is a camera, and that is the ultimate footage. That is the ultimate footage.
And why give us a still shot at all? They have the ability to give us him walking down the stairs, and they're saying he was limping because it seems like there was something in his pants, and so he couldn't bend his knee. But then in the images, he's bending his knee. So give us the footage. Let us see that for ourselves.
So
this is the year 2025. We can download video.
Yeah. And think about it like this too, because you know what? Now that you say that, I hadn't even thought about this before. So that means at some point he jumps off the roof, and in this video, the gun is concealed, right? We don't see the gun. Maybe it's broken down in a bag. Maybe it's down his leg. It doesn't look that way, but we really don't know, right? But then later, or I mean, we're told In the private security video, by the way, the most important videos we got here didn't come from the government. They came from private sources. So that's a little odd too. But so the security camera, it's on a doorbell. I believe it's a Ring camera, where that's the one where he's limping and it looks like he's got the gun barrel down his leg. So again, it's like, well, then what is going on here? So he has it down his leg and then he disassembles it and then he shoots it and then he reassembles. Like, none of it makes any sense. And they haven't even tried to lay out a linear timeline of events with evidence to sell us this official narrative. Now, again, maybe they will, and they'll prove that they've reached the conclusions for the right reasons, and they can prove it all to the American people, but they haven't yet. And there's way too many glaring holes in the official narrative that make it look like we're being lied to.
Colonel Towner Watkins, friend of the show, she's done incredible research on Operation Gladio. We've interviewed her on the show, retired U.S. Air Force, brilliant woman, about the leave behind armies, the NATO terrorist leave behind armies. I just want to put this tweet that she posted up here because it speaks to what we were just talking about, like by being distracted by other things. She said, for those of you focused on where the bullet came from, the towel, the gun in the backpack or note, you're doing exactly what those behind the assassination want you to do. You miss the big picture on purpose. In the big picture, she says, Operation Gladio conducted assassinations, terror attacks, bombings, etc. that were orchestrated to control you. The government intelligence agencies, NATO, stay-behind assets have either created or infiltrated every organization, left, right, and center. They orchestrated the far-right violence. See PatCon as an example. They orchestrated the far-left violence. It's called the strategy of tension, she says. They use this to control you, this fear. And I feel that. I absolutely feel that she's right. They're using this right now. They're giving us little drips and drabs of information, and then we get distracted by the note, we get distracted by the gun, we get distracted by the camera. There is a larger narrative playing out here.
Yeah, and that's why, as I was explaining earlier, I'm focused on the things that we can see, at least the best to our ability with the footage we have, which is Charlie that day. And I mean, my God, it's gruesome footage. I mean, God bless all of our souls, and God bless Charlie's family. That they had to see that, the kids. I mean, I can't even imagine, but we're forced to sit there, and that's what I've been focused on, is examining that. And to me, I believe that we're looking at an exit wound. I'm convinced by experts I'm convinced by experts in ballistics. I'm convinced by experts in guns and shooting. We're talking about Marine snipers. I mean, top level ballistics, snipers, everything. And they've convinced me that is an exit wound.
Wait, coming from behind him?
No, from his neck. So let me see if this jives
the
with
entry
what
wound. The entry wound would be, what it appears to me is that the entry wound is behind his right ear, and the exit wound is the gruesome wound that we see in the front of his neck.
Ah, okay.
But he falls backwards.
Hold on, let me just point out.
Here's why that would happen. If he gets hit in the back and the bullet hits his brain or spinal cord, the first thing your body does is seize up. So okay. I think that's why that would have happened. And if you watch the video frame by frame, what you'll see is, and this gets to where I debunk the body armor argument. I'd say I'm 99.9% convinced that this is the case. And if you watch it frame by frame, you'll see what I'm talking about, or you've watched my reports. Charlie Kirk has an earpiece in his right ear. The earpiece, much like the one I have in right here, has a wire that runs behind his ear. Now, for this event, and this happens a lot of times for people that do live media and such, the wire is going to go down around his neck, and it's going to come back around over here to the other side, and it's going to go down here. He then clips his microphone on his shirt. That's the microphone. That's clipped to the earpiece wire. And then the earpiece wire runs back down here to whatever the audio source is. Now, so that's why when people see the shirt anomalies, they think it's body armor. That's just an earpiece. Now, there's an angle that you can see. I covered it on my show, where you can clearly see the moment of impact. The earpiece flies out. That's what causes the shirt to raise up like this, because the earpiece wire flies out. And then, of course, the mic goes flying, and it has that weird shape in the shirt. Because that is an audio wire. That is an earpiece wire. And so to me, that's what debunks the body armor. Plus, you can see him walking around before. He's got a very lightweight shirt on, and you can see, you can see his chest, you can see his nipples. So I don't believe there's any body armor there. I believe he was directly shot in the neck. And you can see, to me, the moment of impact, the earpiece flies out, the wire flies up, and then the exit wound.
Okay.
Fascinating. Well, yeah, we still need confirmation on this soft body armor, using one of those like sort of maybe perhaps tire tactical body armors. They're very lightweight, that are meant for like handgun protection, that look like no sleeves. And so I think we're still waiting on that confirmation. And
why would you have body armor that leaves your nipples exposed?
it's great questions. These are all the things we're still
It's
grappling
like a nursing
with.
bra. That I don't think that's a thing.
Owen, thank you so much for this. You fired up a lot of people in the
further, I'm not going to talk about this whole Charlie Kirk situation on my main channel, Minutes of Horror, because there's other things I do want to go ahead and get into. But not only that, I made this community post right here where I said, I feel like ever since this text message exchange has come out, it feels like the public are given now rabbit holes that now lead to nowhere, no different than the whole Thomas Matthew Crook situation. So going further, anytime that I do talk about the Charlie Kirk situation, I will talk about it on this channel here. But again, almost nobody is buying this whole text message exchange that has come out. This video comes from Breaking News Bobby.
Breaking news. Yesterday, the FBI released the Discord chat between Tyler Robinson, the alleged suspect in the Charlie Kirk murder, and his trans or becoming trans boyfriend. And it's a very convenient exchange. I mean, I don't know if you guys took a look at this yet, but it's literally everything the FBI needs to convict this guy. Literally word for word. I mean, I have it here. You can pause me, make it bigger. And I have another, let me show you the next one. Here, I'll get out of the way so you guys can screenshot it. Okay. So yeah, I mean, you guys gotta go through this. I mean, it's literally, and then even teenagers and 22-year-olds are saying this is a fake exchange. 22-year-olds don't talk with perfect grammar when they're texting, with the capital letters, with the punctuation points. I mean, it just doesn't seem real at all. And no emojis, no nothing. And he literally, I mean, you guys gotta read this thing. It's literally everything the FBI has said that happened. It's right there in this chat. Word for word. Very convenient. I just don't believe the narrative in this case at all. And the FBI has a record of this stuff. I mean, from 9/11 to this, I mean, things like this happen all the time. And I'm not falling for this one. I do believe it's fake. 100%. And also, there's no timestamps. Oh, and somebody else ran it through a few AI databases, and they said it looks 100% fake. That people do not talk like this in text exchanges ever. And it looks like, and some people actually read it and said it looks like somebody in the FBI actually wrote it using words like the FBI would use. So I don't know. You guys let me know your thoughts on this one. Have a good one, guys.
Like what 22-year-old says, it's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. And I mean, what really exposes them is the proper punctuation, how the correct words are capitalized and things like that. I mean, it's just nonsense. I mean, look at this one. Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? I mean, come on. Who's really buying this bad fan fiction? Anyway, it continues to say the messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge UWU, even though the bullet said OWO on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. This really sucks. This is so obvious. Ever since this whole Jeffrey stuff that went completely downhill, everything that the FBI releases and says should be scrutinized. And this right here is fake. Yesterday, I had also uploaded this video right here on my other channel, Minutes of Horror, but I had deleted it because I wanted to include it with this video right here. So this video is not going to be a very long video, and while I do mention the Charlie Kirk shooting, this video is also not really about the Charlie Kirk shooting. I mean, it is, but it isn't, because something happened today. There's been an update that kind of reminds me of another event that people really do not talk about anymore. But it's a very, very suspicious event that I feel like we really did not get the proper answers to. So at the event where Charlie Kirk got shot, there was a mysterious older man who was arrested named George Zinn. People found out that he had a very interesting history, connections with 9/11. He was in a 9/11 documentary, connections to the Boston Marathon bombing, calling in a bomb threat only days after the Boston Marathon bombing. He was also involved in another big event, and now he is directly involved with the Charlie Kirk shooting because authorities are saying he was the distraction that allowed the shooter to get away. He purposefully allowed himself to be a distraction. So given the fact that he has been involved in all these events, people found out that the odds of this are pretty much astronomically low. And given the fact of the history that we have here, people feel like he knows a lot more about what's taking place here. Well, come to find out, it looks like he will not be talking anytime soon because he had been arrested with, let's say, X-rated child media. Maybe it was the simple fact of too many people were asking what this man's deal was, and this was basically a simple way to shut everybody up. I don't know. Because if he goes away and nobody sees him anymore, but they understand where he went, then people will forget about him, especially with these type of charges. So this happened directly after he was announcing he was the shooter, and I'm reading this article from the New York Post. The alleged senior citizen sicko was initially hauled off to campus police headquarters where he refused to cooperate, but was soon taken to the hospital for a medical problem, authorities said. He fessed up to not being the shooter there, and investigators successfully requested if they could take a look at his phone. The article continues to say, as he handed it over, Zinn admitted to state and federal agents that he uses the electronic device to check out inappropriate images of children, the sheriff's office said. Those agents did see several images on the phone of prepubescent girls scantily dressed. A search warrant was obtained Monday that led investigators to find the 20-plus illicit images and several very graphic sexual text threads in which Zinn shared images with other parties. So again, it's very, very disgusting stuff. But my red flags were definitely being raised, especially given the fact of the timing and that a lot of people were finding out a lot of things about this guy when it comes to having history with other events. But like I said, the reason why I'm talking about this happens to be because this sounds very similar to something that happened in Las Vegas, a shooting that took place on October 1st, 2017. This supposed shooter, I should say, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, supposedly opened fire on a crowd attending the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival on the Las Vegas Strip in Nevada from his 32nd floor suite. I'm surprised they didn't use 33, but that's close enough, in the Mandalay Bay Hotel. More than 1,000 rounds was fired supposedly from this window, even though others had found some other interesting things in the sky, but more than 1,000 rounds were fired from this window. About 60 people lost their lives, and at least 413 others were wounded. Now, needless to say, when it came to this Las Vegas shooting, there was a lot of official information that came out that made no sense whatsoever. But there were a lot of things that were found out from other sources, let's say, quote-unquote theories, that made a lot more sense. On a side note, the police chief that was investigating this, John Peltier, also became the police chief in Maui when the fires took place. That's a very interesting coincidence. Anyway, going back to the shooting, a lot came out that made no sense whatsoever, and Stephen Paddock's brother was talking. He was talking a lot. He was saying things that certain, let's say, individuals did not like whatsoever. So it would look very suspicious to end his life, so they did something else. Now, remember, the shooting took place on October 1st, but Stephen Paddock's brother, Bruce, was really talking during that time. Well, on October 25th, this news came out. Vegas gunman Stephen Paddock's brother arrested in a child media probe. So somebody that was really defending his brother and really connecting the dots that made a lot of sense for quote-unquote conspiracy theorist. Well, instead of ending his life, because that would look very suspicious, they had him arrested for child media that could potentially put him away for life.
Now get this, as coincidence may have it, this investigation happened prior to the shooting. Reading this article from NBC News, it says, the estranged brother of Las Vegas gunman Stephen Paddock was arrested Wednesday on child media charges stemming from an investigation that predates the massacre. Isn't that an interesting coincidence? They were investigating him and what he had on his computer prior to his brother opening fire on this crowd, supposedly. And I'm only saying supposedly and for YouTube purposes only. I'm not saying this didn't happen the way authorities said that it happened. I'm just saying I just have a few questions here. Maybe one day I'll do a much bigger video on this Las Vegas shooting because there are still a lot of questions to be had here. Matter of fact, still to this day, they cannot find a motive why Stephen Paddock did this. Again, supposedly. The article continues to say Bruce Paddock, 58, was detained at a Los Angeles assisted living facility where he was awaiting surgery for spinal stenosis. A felony complaint said he had over 600 images of minors in 2014 and had also swapped X-rated images. Now, during that time, he faced 19 counts of exploitation of a child and 1 count of possession of these X-rated media. The complaint says he was being held on $60,000 bond. Now, the LAPD, the same LAPD that John Peltier was chief of, said the images were discovered inside a building where Paddock was squatting, but they could not find him at the time. After his brother's crime, they learned where he was and obtained a warrant, police said. Isn't that very interesting? You can also see right here that they said that Bruce was saying that his brother was not mentally deranged and know that Stephen had never been in trouble with the law like he had. So after this, he stopped talking about his brother. He stopped talking about the shooting. Now, one would think that given the fact that the LAPD found all this evidence of X-rated child stuff on his computer, he would be going away for a long, long time. I mean, they came out and said that, they found he was sharing things, he had downloaded things, and so forth. I mean, it's basically a wrap. Well, oddly enough, on July 5th, 2018, all those charges were dismissed against his brother. When the brother decided to, I guess, stop talking and now push a narrative that they wanted to be pushed if news and media were to approach him, because everything they found on this individual when it came to children, they completely dismissed. And remember, also, this was an investigation that was going on for quite some time, even prior to this Las Vegas shooting. So, again, one would think that they had collected a lot on this individual to arrest him. But anyway, continue to read this article from AP News. It says, the charges against Bruce Paddock were dismissed on May 30th, District Attorney's Office spokesman said. Prosecutors had filed a motion the day before asking to continue the case because a witness wasn't available, he said, but a judge denied the motion the next day. The District Attorney's Office wasn't able to proceed with the case without the witness for whatever reason, even though they had all the evidence, and the case was dismissed, all thanks to a witness. What? So yeah, like I said, his brother was talking, connecting a lot of dots, and then they got him to stop talking without making it really look suspicious. Well, interestingly enough, and remember, Bruce said that his brother was somebody who did not suffer with any mental problems. He was a normal guy. Well, a couple months after all those charges were dismissed, the story started to change. Reading this article from CBS News, which was published on August 3rd, 2018, brother says Las Vegas gunman was paranoid and delusional. These are the things that Bruce Paddock is now saying about Stephen. Continue to read the article. It says, in an investigative report into what was made public Friday, Bruce Paddock told investigators he had not spoken to his brother Stephen Paddock for more than 10 years, but now he believed that his brother suffered from mental illness and was paranoid and delusional. What's funny is that in the same exact sentence, it even mentions the charges that Bruce Paddock had been facing prior to now him making these new statements. I just wonder what got him to change his tune about his brother now. I mean, the fact that they dismissed everything, even though, like I said, they had an investigation against this guy, found all this stuff on his hard drive, his computer, they dismissed everything because of a witness. That is really weird. But like I said, everything as a whole, when it comes to what happened in Las Vegas that day, was very weird and very questionable, which a lot of people should be still talking about to this day. For example, let's not forget when news and media was interviewing this woman who was in the crowd, she had said this, and you have to wonder, where was this woman who was yelling this out? Why has she never stepped forward?
Yeah, so there was a lady who pushed her way forward into the concert venue, into the first row, and she started messing with another lady and told us that we are all going to die tonight.
Do you know why she was saying that? I mean, was this after the shots were fired, or?
It was about 45 minutes before the shots were actually fired, but then she was escorted out by security.
How does that make you feel? I mean,
it makes me feel uncomfortable, especially coming here for my 21st birthday and not knowing if I'm safe, not even knowing if I'm safe going home tomorrow on an airplane. So,
and how did you get out of the venue after this all happened?
We actually weren't there whenever the shooting had occurred. We had already left about maybe 10, 15 minutes before that, but we just barely made it back into our room whenever it started.
And I mean, were you thinking, oh my gosh, this woman told us that before we left?
Yeah, I thought it had a positive correlation to it. Like, obviously, she was telling us
a lot of people doing some very unusual things. I thought I'd go ahead and talk about mind control. Now, these next two videos talk about MK Ultra and a group of people on the news talking about how they are being gang stalked, another form of mind control.
I'm Christy Nicola. I was a subject in radiation as well as mind control and drug experiments performed by a man I knew as Dr. Green, and Donald Richard Ebner, my natural father, was involved with Dr. Green in the experiments. Dr. Green performed radiation experiments on me in 1970. All these experiments were performed on me in conjunction with mind control techniques and drugs in Tucson, Arizona. Dr. Green was using me mostly as a mind control subject. His objective was to gain control of my mind and train me to be a spy assassin. The first significant memory took place at Kansas City University in 1966. I was in what looked like a laboratory, and there seemed to be other children. I was strapped down, naked, spread eagle, on a table, on my back. Dr. Green had electrodes on my body, including my head. He used what looked like an overhead projector and repeatedly said he was burning different images into my brain while a red light flashed aimed at my forehead. In between each sequence, he used electric shock on my body and told me to go deeper and deeper, while repeating each image would go deeper into my brain, and I would do whatever he told me to do. I felt drugged because he had given me a shot before he started the procedure. When it was over, he gave me another shot. The next thing I remember, I was with my grandparents again in Tucson, Arizona. I was 4 years old. I'm Chris.
Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads. And those voices are being transmitted by microwave or other methods.
Well, several viewers asked us to investigate what they call electronic harassment. KMIR 6's Angela Monroe joins us now with what she's discovered. Angela.
Electronic harassment, synthetic telepathy, voice-to-skull technology. Chances are you haven't heard of these terms, but after searching the internet, I found dozens of websites dedicated to the phenomenon and several Valley residents who say they're victims.
How much more can you invade me than to go into my brain? It sounds like somebody else is reading the book, only it's thoughts.
We're not having a group hallucination. This is actually something that's happening.
These men all live in the area, didn't know each other before the voices started, and say someone is playing mind games with them.
Mostly it's a lot of derogatory comments about whatever you're thinking about.
Only time I ever had a whole sentence, he said, "This is not about you," which just frosted me. If it's not about me, what the hell am I going through all this for?
Kevin Bond says he used to have a normal life.
I was living in the San Diego area. I was clerking for a federal judge, and I noticed that I was being followed by a whole bunch of people.
According to the websites, what Bond is describing is called gang stalking. He moved to Palm Springs to escape.
I started hearing, as you'll hear, hearing voices and what they'll call voice to skull or microwave hearing.
Bob Stansfield says his experience was similar and started a decade ago.
They were active in following me around here, and I started hearing the voices a little bit after the vehicular stalking.
Randall Ringer says the voices started when he was undergoing chemotherapy.
The first thing that was said was Randall Ringer. And I sat up straight and I went to into the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, looked myself in the eyes, and I said, did that really happen?
Bond says he's found more than 300 victims locally and is tracking others across the state through billboards. In Johnson Valley, a Freedom House just opened to help people who believe they are being targeted.
To many of you who find yourselves the object of covert harassment, that there is hope and that you are not alone, and that we are striving to find legislation and we're working towards freedom for all.
Derek Robinson leads a national group called Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance. He says he knows who's playing mind games.
Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads. And those voices are being transmitted by microwave or
These events currently going on in the world. We don't know what's real, what's fake, what's AI, what's not AI, and what's out there to mentally manipulate us. I thought it's a good time to go ahead and talk about Project MK Ultra. Now, for those that do not know what MK Ultra is, I'll go ahead and do a brief rundown, and this is coming directly from the CIA's own website because they actually declassified the program. Reading this article right here, it goes on to say MK Ultra was the code name for a covert CIA mind control and chemical interrogation research program run by the Office of Scientific Intelligence. Under MK Ultra, there were various ways of controlling the human behavior, anywhere from filling up an individual with drugs like LSD to horrific mental and physical abuse that would make even the hardest minds crack to carry out various tasks. The United States government said they terminated the project in the late 1960s, which is true. That is very true. And before that, they also terminated MK Delta, which was the predecessor to MK Ultra. So they terminated MK Delta and they continued with MK Ultra. So you can see what I'm getting at here. They terminated MK Ultra and they continued on with something far more advanced, which they indeed did. A lot of people believe that more advanced program being Project Monarch, which it is. They even apply electroshock therapy to a pregnant woman's womb to control the human behavior right away, right from the start. But let us go ahead and read these other programs that came after MK Ultra. I'm actually reading this from the esd.whs.mil website, which comes directly from the Department of Defense. I'll go ahead and link this PDF in the comment section below. I'll go ahead and pin it so you can go ahead and follow along. So apparently this is where all the information comes from. It goes on to say that in testimony on August 3rd, 1977, before a joint session of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and the Senate Subcommittee on Health and Scientific Research, the Director of Central Intelligence reported that the Central Intelligence Agency had located a number of boxes of documents consisting largely of financial records relating to experiments using human subjects in which drugs were tested for mind control and behavior modification purposes. But what this article leaves out is the extreme physical and mental abuse that these human subjects went through. They're only talking about the drugs because it relates to the financial records. But the PDF goes on to say that the director testified that it appeared that 3 other projects described by these documents, projects designated MK Search, MK Often, and MK Chickwit, were Department of Defense programs with which the Central Intelligence Agency had had some contact. The director also described 3 other projects designated MK Ultra, MK Delta, and MK Naomi, which were primarily Central Intelligence Agency projects, but which might have had some Department of Defense involvement. You can see right here, MK Delta, this was apparently the first project established by the CIA in October of 1952 for the use of biochemicals in clandestine operations. It may have never been implemented operationally. I don't believe this was the first. I believe this was the first one where the financials came into question, but you can also see MK Ultra here, which they say was the successor project to MK Delta. You can see MK Naomi here. This project began in the 1950s and was terminated, at least with the respect to biological projects, in 1969. This may have also been the successor to Project MK Delta. Its purpose was to stockpile severely incapacitating and lethal materials and to develop gadgetry for the dissemination of these materials. But here's where we come to the successor of MK Ultra, which would be MK Search. This was apparently a successor project to MK Ultra, which began in 1965 as they were getting rid of MK Ultra and was terminated in 1973. The objective of the project was to develop a capability to manipulate human behavior in a predictable manner through the use of drugs. Then we have MK Chickwit. This was apparently a part of the MK Search program. Its objective was to identify new drug developments in Europe and Asia and to obtain information and samples. Then next, MK Often. This was also apparently a part of the MK Search program. Its objective was to test the behavioral and toxic effects of certain drugs on animals and humans. This part goes on to say how in September of 1977, the agency permitted the Department of Defense representatives to search additional boxes containing MK Ultra records. Both sets of materials consisted of approvals of advances of funds, vouchers, and accounting records relating to these projects. So as you can see, they terminate the projects, they terminate the name like MK Ultra, but then they continue on with far more advanced programs. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and read this whole PDF. You can go ahead and read it yourself. Like I said, I will go ahead and link it, but I do also want to read this part right here where it says Army programs. It appears from the available documents that the Army was involved in one aspect of the Central Intelligence Agency project designated as MK Chickwit and two aspects of a counterpart project designated as MK Often. The document search is described in Selection A below, and each of the Army programs is described in Section B below. So in a nutshell, these two programs are identified as identification of new drugs with behavioral effects, and number two, databases on evaluation of pharmacological products. And they want us to believe that the Army did not have any human test subjects. They just funded for the collection of this information. But let us not forget that in the beginning of 2025, we had two big suspicious events involving members of the military, more specifically members of Fort Bragg. We had what happened in New Orleans and the individual that caused what happened in Las Vegas, the Cybertruck explosion. So I don't really think their experiment stopped either. There was a FOIA request on the CIA website for MK Search, and as you can see, they present us with just this. But there is a file attachment MK Ultra subproject, and a lot of MK Search is actually still classified. There is some declassified information, but it's hard to read. I'll also go ahead and pin this in the comment section as well. But yeah, a lot of it is still classified. But make no mistake about it, they're still running these very advanced programs today and terminating the old ones. Something else took MK Search's place, and whatever that was, something else took its place. And I do believe that something far more advanced involves the TV and media, something that can target the mass population as a whole through music, movies, the news, and so forth. Programs now designated to control the human behavior on a mass scale. And it's not just the United States government, but all these governments around the world, China and so forth. Because all these governments that we think are enemies on TV are all in the World Economic Forum giving very similar speeches and all friendly to one another. They are involved in the Bilderberg meetings and other meetings that the public is not privy to. They also control us through food and through the use of AI. Anything that's uploaded on the internet that we see that may be suspicious or strange or something they may be caught involved in, the first thing people will say is that it's just AI, because we're presented as the public with very powerful AI like Google VO3. So again, like I said in the beginning, we don't know what's real, we don't know what's fake, and I do believe that's what's a part of this new mind control project, this far more advanced one. But anyway, we still talk about these news stories, and more than ever, we have to use our discernment. This next video comes from VHS, and what he's saying is so true, but what he also says and what he's also seeing is part of the agenda to keep us in deception, to keep us confused. And when we do start to question what we're being shown that things that do not add up, we're called conspiracy theorists.
You know, with the events that occurred in the past 6-7 days, I hate the fact that now that the podcasters, influencers, or just regular civilians want to have conversations based on the information that they were told, I hate the fact that those same news and media outlets that gave that information when we all had to play audience, they want to call those people conspiracy theorists now, or they're coming up with conspiracy theories. I hate that that's a thing now. I hate the fact that we all had to sit and hear these unconnected sources of information that the news media outlets told us. And then when we want to have conversations about those things, we're considered the conspiracy theorists. I hate the fact that when they said what kind of gun it was and what he did with that gun and how it magically ended up somewhere, I hate the fact that you have military personnel, ex-military personnel, or people who specialize in firearms and ballistics. I hate the fact that now they have conversations about the reality behind doing particular things with a firearm like that. I hate that the news is calling those guys conspiracy theories. Ain't that funny? Isn't that funny how someone can tell you something, and then when you talk based on the information they tell you, those same people will call you a conspiracy theorist?
Live for us in studio tonight. Good evening, Morgan.
Good evening, Sean. So Representative Scott spoke this morning at a legislative committee in Boise. She's worried about the possibility that people are eating other people and may not know they're doing so. She says with the rise in human composting, which is legal in several states as a means of dealing with human remains, she was concerned about what other uses may be found. During today's meeting, she explains what finally convinced her to act.
I was on a plane this summer and I was watching, you just kind of randomly go through channels, and I watched a video of some food show, and the three contestants tasted the food and they had to guess what was in it. It was some kind of a sausage. And one of the options they told these people that was in the food was human flesh. And I thought at that point, and this was on a plane this year, I thought, this is going to be normalized at some point. The way our society's going and the direction we're going, this is going to be normalized.
Morgan Ashley live for us in studio tonight. Good evening, Morgan.
Good evening, Sean. So Representative Scott spoke this morning.
So big media, they want us to get comfortable with the idea that Soylent Green is people. Now, make no mistake about it. It's been like that for a long, long time now, for years. They just want us now to get comfortable with it. They want these TV shows to show us that, hey, eating a sausage made of human really tastes no different than any other types of sausage. Now, I mean, look at this news article published by Business Insider. Here's how Hannibal creates food that resembles human flesh and looks delicious. We were talking about a commercial not too long ago, a KFC commercial that had these type of undertones where they show us that they turn people basically into chicken tenders. You may be saying these food shows might be doing this for ratings, they're being facetious, but we also have to remember that all but one state in the United States outlaws Soylent Green is people, and that being Idaho. There's already things like human composting, which turns bodies into fertilizer to help nourish trees and plants and other things. But let's be honest, I wouldn't doubt one bit they're also taking this and, again, adding it into the food. I have covered multiple news stories on this channel where bodies are missing from funeral homes or inside caskets, or family members, they'll go ahead and get their loved ones cremated, and what they'll get in return is just dirt. It's a big business, and there's a lot of money that goes into this. There are also many people out there that do the calculations between how many animals there are and all of these fast food chains and grocery stores and so forth that have animal products, and the numbers just do not add up. And again, like with what I said when it came to the whole mind control thing, is not just something that's happening in the United States. This is a worldwide business. Take, for example, this news clip involving China that happened just 9 months ago.
The illegal trade of human corpses has been uncovered. Instead of being cremated, over 4,000 bodies were secretly sold to two major biomaterial companies which are tied to the state. The corpses were then dissected and turned into bone grafting materials, generating millions of dollars in revenue over a span of 8 years. The scheme involving funeral homes, doctors, and a state-owned enterprise has exposed a dark side of China's medical industry. Here's our report with more.
In northern China, prosecutors have uncovered a disturbing decade-long scheme involving the illegal sale of corpses meant for cremation. This scheme, spanning at least 7 provinces, has implicated dozens of suspects, including funeral home managers, doctors, and company shareholders. At the center of this shocking case are 2 companies, Shanxi Osteorad Biomaterial and Sichuan Hengpu Technology. From 2015 to 2023, these companies illegally obtained more than 4,000 corpses, generating nearly $53 million in revenue. The cadavers were collected from funeral homes across various localities and were then dissected, stored, and eventually processed into biomaterial devices used in bone grafting procedures. The scheme was not limited to just the companies. Funeral homes in the southwestern provinces of Yunnan, Guizhou, and Sichuan, as well as in the Chongqing municipality, played a crucial role. These funeral homes charged families for cremation services, but instead sold the corpses to hospitals for dissection and storage. In some cases, unclaimed bodies were chosen for the illegal trade. A staff member at the anatomy department of Guilin Medical University purchased at least 450 corpses from 3 of these funeral homes, paying around $125 per body. The bodies were then sold to Shanxi Osteorad for up to $1,400 each. In another instance, a transplant surgeon at the affiliated hospital of Qingdao University processed and sold at least 10 bodies to the company, earning between $1,400 and $3,000 per corpse. Shanxi Osteorad staff not only mishandled the cadavers, but also fabricated the necessary documentation to cover their tracks. This allowed them to bypass strict regulatory oversight that typically governs the use of cadaveric tissue for medical purposes.
So yeah, there are many organizations out there, whether they are biotech companies, food companies, and so forth. They will not allow thousands of dollars to just waste in the ground. Or if you're doing cremation, they're not going to allow thousands of dollars to burn up in flames, especially when these bodies have multi-purposes. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more,
I don't think you're fit to hand the bureau. But here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing. Because as much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States of America, Donald Trump has shown us in his first term and in this term, he is not loyal to people like you. He will cut you loose. This may be the last time I have a hearing with you because I don't think you're long for your job. But I'm going to tell you this. I pray for you. I pray for you that you can step up and defend your oath, defend the Constitution, and do a much better job of defending this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What is going on with y'all, man? It is Black Balloon, and I'm coming back with another video, man, so y'all already know what's going on, all right, y'all. This is just one big show, right? I just thought I would add that in the beginning with that senator going back and forth with Kash Patel, Bug-Eyed Patel, director of the FBI, former podcaster, whatever you want to call him. I mean, this is a shit show, right? But look, I saw the text messages, right? We got to read the text messages from the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, and his supposed lover, his trans lover. Text messages seem fake. They almost seem AI generated, or as if someone wrote them and just put it out so we could have something to see that makes this personal and gives us a reason or a motive to why he did what he did, right? I want to go over those in a second. But first, I want to show y'all this clip from the hearings that they had today. And this comes from another senator that put out some information for the world to see. And it is about an FBI operation called Arctic Frost. And just so happens that Charlie Kirk's, foundation, or whatever you want to call it, Turning Point, was a part of this Arctic operation, or at least was considered like some sort of a threat, right? I'm going to let y'all hear the senator talk about it first, and maybe I can read over this article I found about it as well. But this goes into the rigging of the election back in 2020, Trump, certain Republican parties, all kinds of stuff. But this was an FBI operation called Arctic Frost and seemed to have direct aim at certain political groups. And I find it interesting that they chose to put this stuff out after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Now, the timing is interesting. It's either one or two things. Once again, they're trying to just throw stuff out there, just like in the last video that we talked about, give us something else to think about. Oh, this is why he was actually assassinated, Or, I mean, maybe this is more of why things really happened the way that it did, because it didn't happen for no reason. Whether you want to believe this is a psyop, it didn't happen at all. He didn't even get shot, or he got shot from a right angle behind him, that he didn't even get shot from the roof. A lot of different theories, right? Pages showing, their own theory, their own proof that the bullet came from behind him to the right. They even show a still shot where you could possibly see a bullet entering the right side lower jaw area and exiting out on the other side, which was what we saw on the video. I mean, bunch of different theories, right? Also, there's footage out there of a guy taking down the camera and taking the SD card out 5 minutes after he was allegedly shot. This is before the scene was cleared or taped off or anything. He actually uses the chair that Charlie Kirk was sitting in as a footstool to take the camera down, take the SD card out, which is the camera that would have gave us very clear footage of where that shot came from, and possibly even more, because I think we only have 4 official camera angles. But I'm only saying that because there's just so much. I'm trying to relate it to, the whole chaos theory that we were talking about yesterday. But that was real. A guy really did step into the scene, the chair, and all kind of stuff, take the camera down before the scene was even cleared. So I'm going to show y'all this clip because I just thought it was interesting that they would choose to put this out right now. And he specifically says that he wanted the world to hear it. But one thing I will say before playing this clip, there's a reason behind this. It's not just a distraction. Like a lot of people say, this is a distraction for something bigger. No, you don't just do this on camera. If we want to say this is completely real, he's actually really gone. You don't just do this just to veer us away from an entirely different topic. No. It doesn't work that way. This is definitely something. It happened for a reason, and it's not just to distract us from something else.
Charlie Kirk presidency 15 years from now? No. I mean, I'm enjoying myself, but this is going to get really nasty. Everyone listen to this. I just hope you understand. They're going to be coming after us. They're going to be following us in the middle of the night. They're going to be breaking into our houses. You think I'm joking? They are going to be violent. That you will not be able to walk the streets of the MAGA hat without your physical health be put in jeopardy. And I hope it doesn't get that way. I hope that this clip gets unearthed and everything's wonderful. I hope that the country comes together and we have a beautiful Unitarian healing moment.
I mean, I see a lot of people say that, but you have to ask yourself, what is the something else? There ain't nothing else going on. I mean, they already voted for the Epstein thing right under our nose the day that he was assassinated. So if anything, that was a distraction for that. But other than that, there's nothing else going on. This happened for a reason. Charlie Kirk is in the midst of this for a reason. The FBI, Cash Patel, Trump, all of this stuff. It is for a reason. But let's go ahead and get into this clip about the FBI operation, Arctic Frost. And we're going to come back and read over some of those text messages that are highly suspicious. All right? Check this out, y'all.
Arctic Frost was the FBI case opened and approved by antitrust Trump FBI agent Tebow. Arctic frost then became Jack Smith's elector case against then citizen Trump and now President Trump. These new records show that Arctic frost was much broader than just an electoral matter. The case was expanded to Republican organizations. Some examples of the group that Ray FBI sought to place under political investigation included the Republican National Committee, Republican Attorney General's Association, and various Trump political groups. In total, 92 Republican targets, including Republican groups and Republican-linked individuals, were placed under investigative scope of Arctic frost. On that political list was one of Charlie Kirk's groups, Turning Point USA. In other words, Arctic frost wasn't just a case to politically investigate Trump. It was the vehicle by which partisan FBI agents and Department of Justice prosecutors could achieve their partisan ends and improperly investigate the entire Republican political apparatus. So today, Senator Johnson and I are making these records public for the entire country to see, and I hope a lot of people are interested in seeing what government can do when various agencies have a political agenda.
He just told you he wants the world to see what the government can do when these certain agencies have a political agenda. And he's basically talking about the FBI and the Arctic frost investigation, Arctic frost FBI operation, that it wasn't just an electoral matter about the 2020 election. It was also charging Trump, with the whole hoarding national security documents. And the investigation pursued lines of inquiry about purportedly false election fraud claims, fake elector schemes, frivolous lawsuits, financial fraud, and pressure on state officials to flip vote counts in Trump's favor. So this whole Charlie Kirk thing has a lot of different angles to it. And, his own group was being investigated by the FBI, the DOJ, in matters that most people wouldn't think of to have anything to do with his death. Moving on real quick to the text messages, right? And also want to play a small piece from the updated live today that Candace Owens did, because she made a good point about something that was said in these messages, right? Here's my thought. Some of you may have seen these already. So the messages start off saying, drop what you are doing. Look under my keyboard. The roommate says, what? You're joking, right? Then the guy says, Tyler Robertson, I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet, which is a city, Orem. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you. Then it says, you aren't the one who did it, right? He says, I am. I'm sorry. Then the roommate said, I thought they caught the person. He goes on to say, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Why? Why did I do it? Yeah, I had enough of his hatred, and he's talking about Charlie. Some hate can be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully, they have moved on. Haven't seen anything about them finding it. First, this just doesn't make sense. I mean, the guy is using commas. It's in order. This is not a frantic text, revealing the fact that you just did one of the craziest assassinations in the past couple of decades. I mean, nothing about this exchange, as he put it, makes sense. Mind you, at the end, he said, delete this exchange. It didn't say delete this text thread like a young person would talk who's 22 years old. He seems to be more worried about the fact that it's his grandpa's gun than actually getting caught. He's worried about returning the gun to his dad or his grandpa more than actually what he's being accused of. Then out of nowhere, they just insert this, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. I mean, they literally wrote this or used ChatGPT or basically, arranged these messages to fuel the narrative. That's what it is. Like, these messages are coming out of left field to fuel what they've told you happened. One of the messages talk about the engraving bullets. One of the messages say, only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. I mean, he literally is telling everything that they put out into the news before they discovered these messages.
The rifle to your father. As soon as I got to my vehicle, I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back grandpa's rifle. I don't know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hopefully they don't find prints. How the F will I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. What? You're worried about explaining losing the rifle to your father. Not worried that you left the rifle and therefore it's obviously going to be found out. Like the only thing that you left was the murder weapon. This is weird. This chain is weird to me. It's weird to me that we don't know what time. I don't know what he means. Where is he stuck here, guys? Do you have a clue here? I'm stuck in a REM for a little while longer. It shouldn't be long until I can come home. Is it a typo? I should have asked you guys. Okay, that's the town. Okay, that's the town. I'm stuck here for a little while longer. It shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I got to grab my rifle still. So is this happening during lockdown? He tells him to check under and to see, check under quickly and see, and I took care of it, and he's where? And now he's giving him an accounting of exactly what's taken place, which means if this is right after and they're still in lockdown, he's monitoring the situation? Because this is going to give us a timeline, whether they tell us when these messages happened or not. The fact that he already knows that they grabbed some crazy old dude and that they also interrogate someone in similar clothing, we're going to be able to go back and plot exactly when that happened, or at least when the public was informed, because this whole correspondence is very strange to me. It's very strange to me. He then is even more explicit, talk about trying to cover your tracks, but then explicitly texting everything to your lover. He says, the only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The effing messages are mostly a meme. If I see notices bulge on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. That really effing sucks.
Now, that part I was questioning as well, because they don't show the times of the text messages, which is obviously for a reason, but it's very important that we see those times. Why? Because it would explain how the hell he supposedly knew they arrested this old man and then also arrested someone else who said looked like a 25-year-old but ended up being another old man. He was talking about that. Somehow, some way, he knew about that, as if he was scrolling on his phone, watching live updates of what was happening. And that same old man, George Zinn, which is oddly close to George Zimmerman, he falsely claimed that he shot Charlie and that he was a decoy for the real shooter. But recently, he just got hit with child, you know what charges for having it on his phone. Says he's now accused of keeping graphic photos of little ones in his phone. Man is 71 years old and got charged with 4 counts of sexual exploitation of little ones just Monday, after investigators found more than 20 images of little ones as young as 5 years old, at least partially naked and posing in a very S type of way. The old man actually admitted that he gets S gratification from viewing and sharing little one abuse, and that his preferred victim age is in between 5 and 12 years old. Think about this. Look at this. Now, do I doubt that this guy engages in this stuff? No. But it's also shedding light on what actually take place in high levels of government. Just like that Charlie Kirk clip where he was talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Remember when he said Jeffrey Epstein is basically used by all of these agencies, you know, to basically get info and get blackmail on higher ups doing things with 13-year-olds so they would be forced to do what we want them to do. It just seems so fitting for a story like this of a man who was first accused of this for this to come out. You know, it took this in order for them to find that he was actually a sick, disgusting dude. And remember, it goes all the way back to that Tim Tebow video where America is like #1 in sharing, producing all of that stuff, all of the little one abuse. Us, Russia, and China were top 3 in sharing it, producing it, watching it. These people are sick. And we even get a piece of it with the Charlie Kirk case. So I thought that was very interesting, y'all. That'll go ahead and wrap up this episode, man. I just realized, I was like, you know what? I might as well just continue covering this because, hey, you know, the regular stuff we do on the channel, we do all the time.
Pro-Israel Bill Ackman is being accused of intimidating, maybe even blackmailing Charlie Kirk just a month before his killing. Gray Zone reported on this. Max Blumenthal says billionaire Bill Ackman convened stormy Israel intervention with Charlie Kirk. A month before Charlie Kirk's killing, billionaire pro-Israel money man Bill Ackman arranged an intervention in the Hamptons, during which sources say he and others hammered Kirk for the conservative leader's growing criticism of Israeli influence in Washington. Kirk came away fretting about Israeli blackmail, sources say, as he contemplated a Catholic conversion. Here's Max Blumenthal talking about it.
Following my September 12th report, which provided background about the pressure, the mounting pressure that Charlie Kirk was under from pro-Israel forces, from Netanyahu's cutouts in the United States, I gathered more details. The piece, it hit like a sledgehammer. It really caused a lot of, I think it spoke for a lot of people, particularly within the conservative movement, which is changing among the youth on the question of Israel. And more people started coming out, and more people started talking, and people were talking to me. And these were people who had knowledge of a tumultuous, stormy meeting held in the Hamptons during the first week of August, convened, according to multiple sources, with knowledge of this meeting, intimate knowledge of this meeting, by the billionaire ultra-Zionist financier Bill Ackman, who's close to Netanyahu and his kind of network in the United States, Charlie Kirk was summoned along with an array of young, sort of vapid, very avaricious conservative influencers who seemed to be sort of in Israel's back pocket to set a very pro-Israel tone for this meeting. And Charlie Kirk was, according to one source, hammered by Ackman and others for allowing Israel critics, very prominent conservative voices like Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, or the anti-Zionist Jewish comedian Dave Smith to appear at his events. And actually, Charlie Kirk was planning to host many of these same figures again in December, and he had just added to his TPUSA major, I think it's called America Fest in December, the premier critic of Israel in Congress. I didn't say Republican critic, I just said premier critic, because that's what she is now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, which really reflected his shifting views. And Ackman, according to multiple sources, had this meeting to basically bully Charlie Kirk into submission. Charlie Kirk walked away, according to one person, feeling like there was an attempt to blackmail him. He refused any offers of funding and also refused the offer to travel to Israel and meet with Netanyahu, which Netanyahu disclosed in the wake, the immediate wake of Netanyahu's death. He talked about this letter, but he didn't say whether Charlie Kirk refused or accepted. I've learned since that he refused.
Of course, Bill Ackman is denying all of this. But first, I want to show you, before we get to his denial, Candace Owens also talked about this, about Max Blumenthal's piece in the Gray Zone. She talked about it on her show. And this is where things get heated, because Bill Ackman is now essentially threatening to sue Candace Owens for slander or libel. But here's what Candace had to say about it.
Bibi Netanyahu, in that phone call, what took place was a couple of weeks ago before Charlie lost his life. Charlie was in the Hamptons, and he had more than one event, but he had essentially what was staged, an intervention was staged by Bill Ackman, because Charlie's thoughts, Charlie's rational thoughts about Israel were a no-no. This is not the route that you should be going on. And Charlie was surrounded by his friends, his quote unquote friends. Bill Ackman was very upset, and threats were made. That is what I am told, and I will tell you that I am very happy for Bill Ackman to dispute this narrative. In fact, he was asked to dispute this narrative. Max Blumenthal went out to him today, and Bill Ackman came back and said, I have receipts I can show you. And he did not provide the receipts. This is not how it went down. I know it went down this way. I'm waiting for one of them to go on record and to say that it didn't go down this way. It was at this time that Bibi Netanyahu was called and Charlie was invited to Israel. This was an under duress situation, I would say, because I've been in these situations before. When I started asking very sensible questions about Israel, as someone who had dedicated her political life to supporting Israel, many times alongside Charlie Kirk, I was met with the very same pressure. And just like Charlie was being invited to Israel, I was invited somewhere else. And when this arrived to me, it felt like a threat. You know, I got to tell you that. It felt like a threat, like not like, hey, come here and we can educate you because you're my friend. More like, this is your last chance. That's how it felt to me. I can't speak to how it felt to Charlie. And I know that Charlie was offered a ton of money in this moment. A ton of money. Maybe would fund it, you know, spend tons of money. And Turning Point, I guess, if it needed to go to a higher level, would have gone to an even higher level than it already was at. And I know for a fact that Charlie denied that funding, that Charlie denied, and what Bibi didn't include there, he declined to go to Israel for, I would describe this as like, you know, re-education camp. You know, we've seen it. You made an uh-oh, but we can help you. You know, we just need you to come out to Auschwitz and take a picture. Yeah. We just need you to come to the Holocaust Museum and take a photo. We just need you to go to Israel and we can make this better. Charlie said no to Bibi. Okay. Bill Ackman, if you would like to dispute that, I would love to hear what you say happened, because our sources and what we have, it's solid. Okay. There were conversations that took place, messages that were sent at that time, and they are solid. So
Bill Ackman has issued basically a denial on this. I think, though, we all know that whenever someone is accused of being an anti-Semite, someone prominent, they usually get the invitation to Israel. Right? We watched this happen with Elon Musk, and then they have to go and do their pilgrimage, and they're shown a bunch of stuff, and who knows what's said to them in a back room. And suddenly, the next thing we know, when they come back to the United States, they're just extremely pro-Israel, and they're all ready to censor everybody and call everybody an anti-Semite. But this is what Bill Ackman had to say about the meeting in the Hamptons with Charlie Kirk. This happened in early August, I believe 4th and 5th or 5th and 6th is when they decided to have this kind of intervention or, some sort, or whatever you want to call it, intimidation of Charlie Kirk. So Bill Ackman has a really long thread on this. I'm just going to read part of it. He says, I connected with Charlie when he DM'd me in late May of this year and expressed interest in meeting me. So he's claiming that Charlie Kirk wanted to meet him and that Charlie actually reached out to him. And he's saying that this happened in May. And he then says that we were unable to figure out a way to meet, and so we just met over Zoom. So he says that on June 11th, him and Charlie Kirk met on Zoom, and Charlie explained to Bill Ackman that conservatives, in particular young conservatives, were getting tired of defending Israel, and that this was very concerning to him, he says. I asked him how I could learn more. This is Bill Ackman saying, I asked how I could learn more, and he suggested that I might be useful to convene a group of young conservative influencers on a host of topics that could include Israel to get a better sense of how the conservative community was thinking about Israel and other relevant issues of concern to young people. So he's claiming Charlie Kirk convened this meeting in the Hamptons, which included Charlie, Bill Ackman, many other pro-Israel influencers and other conservative influencers who all convened to this Hamptons meeting. And Bill Ackman goes on to say that they chose the afternoon of August 4th to the afternoon of August 5th for the convening. Charlie and members of my team worked to put together an invitation list. I offered to host the sessions in Bridgehampton and cover the cost so that I could attend some of the sessions as I was working from there at that time. So Bill Ackman is admitting to he funded this entire convention in the Hamptons. And, and maybe that is why Charlie was working with him, which was, hey, do you want to get together and put together a meeting for young conservatives, and we can talk about a variety of conservative issues. And yeah, we can talk about Israel too. And what is being alleged by the Gray Zone and Max Blumenthal, according to his sources, is that Charlie then was kind of blindsided at this convention. He was going there thinking maybe it was about one thing, and in reality ended up getting bombarded and essentially he felt blackmailed, and there was like an intervention. And according to Max Blumenthal's piece, Charlie was yelled at, like people were screaming at him. They were angry with him. And it just turned into like this big fiasco, essentially. And Charlie walked away feeling pretty defeated and feeling like, wow, the pro-Israel forces are really kind of out to get me. Bill Ackman is saying, that's not true. None of that's true. We got together August 4th and 5th. I did pay for it because, I thought, well, it'd be easy and convenient. So I paid for it. And Charlie sent out the invitation to 35 or so influencers, or he sent it out to a bunch of people, but 34 or so influencers accepted, according to Bill Ackman, with an estimated followership of about 100 million collectively. Charlie and Turning Point put together the agenda for the meeting, and the topics were the economic future of America, the cultural landscape of dating and marriage, the convergence of East and West, and Mamdani, the new threat to America. So that is what Charlie went in thinking he was going to talk about. But according to Max Blumenthal, when Charlie got there, the topic turned to Israel, and Charlie ended up being yelled at and basically told that he was essentially a traitor to Israel for platforming anti-Israel voices at his Turning Point USA events. But Bill says, Charlie asked me to moderate the economic future discussion, which I did, and thereafter hosted a Q&A session with the participants. He also said that the convergence of East and West included a discussion of immigration, value systems, the U.S. approach to foreign policy, and Israel. While I had wanted to attend the Convergence panel, I had a board meeting that conflicted with this session. So he's saying he did not attend that session that had the Israel discussion. Bill says that those that did attend that session said that it was similar to other sessions, with the attendees expressing varying points of view, as well as explaining the views of their followers. Some participants were critical of Israel and U.S. support for Israel, and others were supportive. So he's saying, and then with these sessions, we had some meals, lunches, dinners, and I attended some of those with Charlie and others. He says, at the end of the event, I sat with Charlie and members of my team, and we discussed the events of the convening. Charlie believed that he had identified a number of potential Turning Point ambassadors who could launch open mic events on campus, and that he would follow up with them. We agreed to keep in touch thereafter. We corresponded by text thereafter over the next few weeks on a range of topics that did not include Israel, and the next thing I knew, he was gone. In short, this was not an intervention to blackmail Charlie Kirk into adopting certain views on Israel. It was nothing of the sort, he's claiming. However, if that's the case, then, the issue is, here is Charlie Kirk on Megyn Kelly's show, which he did on August 6th. So he was at the Hamptons August 4th, August 5th. This is what Charlie had to say the very next day. Now, you tell me, does he seem like, yeah, everything's cool with the pro-Israel crowd? You tell me.
Look, I'm afraid because, again, I want civilization to win. I want the West to win. I don't want the Islamo-fascist barbarians to storm the gates of Jerusalem. I want the holy sites protected. I believe in the Holy Land. I love that Jesus walked on water there and rose from the dead and preached in the Mount of Beatitudes. Like, I feel the connection to Israel. But at the same time, simultaneously, when the hostile reaction is that now Megyn and Charlie are enemies,
right?
Boy, I'll tell you, like you're not gonna, I wouldn't say lose, but you will weaken and just basically deflate two of your strongest advocates if that continues.
So Charlie was feeling like he was being treated like an enemy. This is the very next day after the Hamptons intervention, or wasn't an intervention, according to Bill Ackman. Now, Bill Ackman, in that previous tweet, I didn't read the whole thing too because it's really long. Bill Ackman has a tendency to post essays online. Bill Ackman said, this afternoon, Candace Owens slandered me by accusing me of staging an intervention with Charlie Kirk. And he basically is saying, I'm going to come after you, Candace Owens. So Candace Owens, she issued a response to Bill Ackman's threats to her. And she said, let's clarify. 1, check your ego. I do not need you to make my platform bigger. Don't confuse your mysterious wealth with influence. You were contacted with plenty of time to respond with your receipts, and you did not. Because Max had reached out to Bill Ackman, and Bill Ackman didn't respond back. She says, I know feigning victimhood is kind of an Israeli brand thing, but I was clear that Charlie felt blackmailed by the offer to fund TPUSA, which he refused. No one said Bill Ackman blackmailed Charlie Kirk. Try to resist the urge to rewrite history. Clearly being, the thinking is that Charlie Kirk felt blackmailed, and by who? This was an event that was put together by Bill Ackman. So, I think one could deduce that maybe people, it's speculation. Of course, they're giving their opinions on that, but that's how people are interpreting what happened and how Charlie was feeling about it. 3 people in attendance characterized it as an intervention. Josh Hammer and Seth Dillon, according to attendees, were especially disappointed that Charlie expressed his frustration with Bibi Netanyahu and what would happen if he publicly criticized him. 4, nothing else in your overly worded response disputes that Charlie was pressured by you and others about his viewpoints on Israel and about Tucker Carlson or Bibi's phone call. Try to stay focused and answer the questions. 5, as a follow-up and separate question, do you know anything about the alleged $150 million Bibi offered for an anti-Tucker Carlson campaign? DMs open. Interesting. So she's asking about, and this is the first time I'm hearing about this, allegedly a $150 million Israel paid for campaign against Tucker Carlson. Well, that's kind of interesting. Okay. So that is, Candace Owens' response on that. And we're waiting to hear from Bill Ackman. I don't know if he's going to continue to say anything or if he's just going to hit her with a lawsuit, which is maybe what he would do. But, if you're going to hit Candace Owens with a lawsuit, why not? I'm not advocating for this at all, but Max Blumenthal is the one that wrote the piece and reported on this. And he did reach out to Ackman for for an opinion on it or for a comment, and Bill Ackman didn't. I want to play this for you. Many of you might wonder who the heck is Bill Ackman, and Nick Fuentes actually lays out pretty well who Ackman is. So let's go ahead and watch this.
What about Bill Ackman? What about Bill Ackman and his fundraiser in August? Who the fuck is Bill Ackman? Bill Ackman is a Wall Street Jewish billionaire. Do you know that he is friends with Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock, the largest asset manager in the world, managing $10 trillion in assets? Do you know that Larry Fink is going to run the World Economic Forum in the stead of Klaus Schwab, who's retiring after a Me Too scandal? Do you know that Bill Ackman got the president of Harvard University fired because there was an anti-Israel protest on the Harvard campus? Do you know that Bill Ackman's wife is Israeli? She was born in Israel. And not only that, but she received money from none other than Jeffrey Epstein. And after October 7th, Bill Ackman shifted to the right. He put $1 million behind Trump and became very active in Republican politics, even though he's a lifelong Democrat. Bill Ackman hosted the the convention on August 4th or 5th of Turning Point Influencers. Here's the smoking gun that really brings it all home. Because, and I'm going to be really honest with you, when people said that Israel was behind Charlie Kirk's assassination, I said, don't be ridiculous. Charlie Kirk, and rest in peace, God bless his soul, Charlie Kirk, we all know, was supported by pro-Israel Jewish patrons. Until the day that he died, he never recanted his support for Israel. Publicly and openly, he defended the administration's cover-up of the Epstein files. He defended the administration's bombing of Iran. In the same interview with Megyn Kelly, he said, "You're never going to lose me. I will always support Israel." Be that as it may, after Netanyahu offered to give him all this money, and he refused, Bill Ackman hosted an event at his home where Israeli mouthpieces like Seth Dillon, a Jew, and Josh Hammer, a Jew Israeli mouthpiece working for Ben Shapiro in a previous job listing. Charlie Kirk refused to listen. He was offered a trip to Israel. He refused. When the FBI could not locate the alleged gunman on Wednesday, do you know who stepped up and offered a $1 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Charlie Kirk's assassin? Bill Ackman. And just who do you think that $1 million will be paid out to? It looks like it will be paid out to the alleged killer's father.
Yeah.
Tyler Robinson was allegedly turned into law enforcement by his father.
Okay, so that is who Bill Ackman is. And let's talk about this now, the $1 million that is potentially going to be going to Tyler Robinson's father. So Bill Ackman offered $1 million reward for whoever would turn in the shooter. And since Tyler's father turned him in, Bill Ackman is set to give $1 million to Tyler Robinson's dad. That is true. Bill Ackman has addressed this. He said a number of people have reached out and are posted expressing concern that Tyler Robinson's father may collect a $1.2 million reward for turning in his son, which inspires a few thoughts. First, in order for rewards to be effective in finding criminals, the rewards need to be paid, even if the recipient is a crook or worse. That said, in this case, if Tyler's father is found to have been involved or otherwise acted negligently in contributing to Charlie's death, civil litigation or criminal prosecution will reverse any unjust compensation. I have also seen reports which suggest that Tyler's family intends to waive its right to any reward. So yes, we will pay the reward if it is earned to whomever the FBI indicates provided the information that led to Tyler's arrest. I always keep my word. So I think that's fair. Okay. I think it's fair enough that, yeah, it doesn't matter. You know, Bill Ackman's right. He offered a reward. It doesn't matter who comes forward with the information. If you offer the reward, you have to give it to them, and it doesn't matter who it is. Even if the person's a total criminal or whatever, then, you know, if rewards are going to be effective, you just have to pay them. So he's right. And he's saying that, yeah, you know, if the FBI says Tyler's dad is the one that turned him in, then yeah, we're going to have to pay the reward to the dad. However, he's saying that Tyler's family is not going to accept the reward, which I would think that would be the case, that they would just say no to it. But the point that people are bringing up about this, so people aren't claiming that, wow, this must be a really greedy father to turn his own kid for over $1 million. Of course, there are people thinking that, but the other line of thinking with this is, if Bill Ackman is paying $1 million to the dad, it's almost like silencing. Like if there was, you know, it could be construed that way. Like it's a bit suspicious, because many people believe that even if Tyler was involved, he was essentially, you know, roped in. We've seen this all the time with plots that governments put, you know, CIA put together these plots. And what do? They find some unsuspecting kind of poor innocent person that they sort of rope into extremism, right? They take somebody that's vulnerable, that they could lead and guide with some mind bending into that direction. And they set them up, and they spend a bit of time grooming that person into extremism. And then they provide all the weapons, they provide all the details, they provide everything. I mean, it's a total setup. And this person otherwise wouldn't be going down that path if it weren't for the government essentially grooming them into that position, right? So we've seen this time and time again. And so the thinking is that if that's what's happened here, and if it comes out, or, you know, to prevent it from coming out, basically, Bill Ackman would pay off Tyler's dad and essentially be like, okay, nothing more to see here, right? Your son was a lone shooter. He did this by himself, and there's no conspiracy. Don't look any further. Don't talk about who else was involved. Don't talk about where your son maybe got these ideas. No, don't talk about any of that. Here's your hush money. So that's why people are pointing at this $1.2 million reward that Bill Ackman might be paying off to the dad. And they're saying, hey, you know, $1.2 million is a lot of money, and it could be used as hush money. Now, of course, the family has to go along with that. It doesn't sound like they're going to. So, but it's just adding, I think, is what people are saying, is this adding to the suspicion that Bill Ackman, interestingly, was the one who put together this conference in August that led to Charlie Kirk going on Megyn Kelly's show, and in other instances talking about these pro-Israel forces that he was feeling, he was feeling betrayed by them. He was feeling pressured. He was feeling like, wow, you're calling me the enemy, treating me like the enemy. He was feeling very pressured and intimidated by these pro-Israel forces. And it just so happened the day before he talks to Megyn Kelly about that, he's at Bill Ackman's. And it just so happens Bill Ackman is now offering a $1.2 million reward for whoever turns in the shooter, so that, you know, everybody stops looking at other directions or whatever. So it's just, the suspicion is layering on. Bill Ackman's feeling the heat, clearly, because he's coming out defending himself. And as Candace Owens pointed out, and Max Blumenthal pointed out in his piece, as of right now, Bill Ackman has not produced any receipts that prove otherwise. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson show.
But I did want to go over all the different places I've been in Utah today, and all the different things that are kind of coalescing with the feds, with the FBI, with Cash Patel, with Dan Bongino. So we're kind of doing the Utah side of things to make people aware of these organizations that are funding and that are behind the murder of Charlie Kirk. So we're working organizations here. I'm not communicating directly with anybody there, but they're working on the same. They're working on the same thing from Washington point of view, which is following the money. They're following the money back in Washington. Here in Utah, we're actually going to the locations. So that's the big idea here: is run them down, show them, expose them, add the sunlight. Sunlight's the best disinfectant. Show you where everybody is, and it is a little complicated, and so that's why we try to not have any mystery. That's why we try to go and show and tell, rather than keep you guessing. It's going to be a little bit. It's the hard part of the Charlie Kirk murder. This isn't the easy part, which is arguing about the ballistics and all this, and the shot came from the right and all that. That's all well and good. That may get you to the team that killed him, may not get you to the team. But yeah, it could be Charlie killed Charlie. In Vietnam, they called the enemy Charlie. This enemy is a Mujahideen guy that runs this group, or is infatuated or infiltrated into this armed queers here in Salt Lake City. It sounds like a crazy, strange combination, armed queers. But in all other respects, that's just a front organization. What you really have behind it is the Mujahideen and the Hezbollah for recruiting for overseas mercenaries. So I don't understand the question. So it's got to make sense, and it will make sense. Here's your alternative. I'll just say the alternative. Let's say you were the governor of Utah. Let's say you wanted to do an Iran-Contra. Hey, sounds pretty good. I'll get a bunch of money from drug trafficking, and then I'll let you guys land planes in my state, and then you can recruit ROTC from our different colleges, and you can have snipers or train demolitions people. Sound good? I mean, isn't that what Bill Clinton did with Iran-Contra in Arkansas? Isn't that what they did in Texas with Waco? Guns in one direction, trained personnel and money in the other direction. I get to run for governor and keep winning for governor like Bill Clinton did 8 times in a row or 4 times in a row. That's the name of the game. It's Utah Contra here. It's an easy concept once you think about the governor, because the governor has control of all the universities. The governor has control of all the ROTC programs. So he comes to the table with Zelensky. He doesn't just come to the table with tablecloth and nice white linen and silverware. He comes to the table with the thing they need to win the war, which is trained specialists to blow up the bridges, the doctors that you need, the karma docs that you need, but then also the snipers and all those folks, the special forces people that you need to win a war. So Hezbollah wants U.S. mercenaries to help overseas. No, they're just a recruiting organization. You'll see that in a minute. I'm going to have so many. I'll just go to the receipts. That way you can see it. But if you remember, Obama armed Hezbollah, Operation Cassandra. If you remember, John McCain armed Hezbollah with Operation Kenya. If you remember Al-Attar in the U.S. Congress that we sent home packing from our investigations with the Awan spy group, again, is a place in Capitol Hill doing recruiting in Capitol Hill. Okay, so let's go to the receipts super quick. And I'm sorry I'm in a shared location, but it is what it is. So rather than with any further ado, it's called Earshot, the piece out there. I go into basically the just kind of sorry, that might have been a little loud, but that goes into all the things we talked about last time, which are all the logistics and so forth of it coming in behind his right ear. We talk about the exit wound coming out his neck there. We talk about this Marine sniper named outside the Overton window that confirms all this. He does all the forensics. Now he's saying that you have to be over 18 to watch it because it's too gory. But what we're getting to is one story of one ROTC guy. So we're not going to do all the stories of all the ROTC guys that Governor Cox has laundered through this, but we're just going to do armed queers recruiting this guy, Tyler Robinson, at ROTC. He's been going to UVU since 2009. We think he was recruited in 2023. But here is just one classic case where I recruit the guy and then I hang him out to dry as the shooter, right? I hang him out to dry. I get rid of Charlie Kirk. I can prolong the Ukraine war for Zelensky, and then I get rid of one of these guys. They're expendable. If he does in turn turn out to be homosexual here in Utah, he's expendable. So they're very expendable and they live quiet lives, which is good for covert operations. We talked about a lot of these different guns. I mentioned this here after touring all the universities, touring all the RFCs, that all of this is just, it's not armed queers, anything. It's armed guys with Q level clearance. It's armed guys with Q level clearance, not QAnon, but Q level clearance, Department of Energy Q level clearance, above top secret, above all the other agencies, right? So like Iran-Contra, it's that, but it's not anything to do with being queer. You'll see that with Hezbollah, and you'll see that with this. And these are the people they want. They want to bring these people to Ukraine, right? Or wherever, Syria, wherever the hotspot is in the world, Venezuela. You don't want to bring people who aren't trained in the specialties, who aren't trained in demolition, who aren't trained in shooting. You want these people. You want the karma docs who know how to put people back together after they get shot up by these things or blown up by these things. Again, you can go for all the forensics, you can go there, but this whole story is Utah-Contra. Nothing has changed in this story except the governor. The only thing that's changed from Bill Clinton being the governor is his hair was better, and he might have been younger, but it's still cash in the back of cars. It's still drugs in one direction, guns in the other direction. And it's great if you're governor, because it's just tons of cash for you to run your state. And I'm saying this because, well, I won't say why I'm saying it, but I'm in a better place to say this now than I was before. But there's the governor running this operation. And when somebody outs your operation, what do you do? When somebody outs Iran-Contra, what do you do? Well, you introduce a sexual oddity like the blue dress and Monica Lewinsky and the blue dress and the stain on the blue dress. And that takes you away from any of the things that you might have been looking into with Iran-Contra. Here's the shot dynamics coming through the back of the neck with Bobby Kennedy type thing coming out of the front, a little to the right, a little up and to the left, of where the shot came through with Kennedy. Here's the Bobby Kennedy, about the same spot as Bobby Kennedy getting hit, and about not the same trajectory. This is the Bobby Kennedy getting shot behind the ear here. It's kind of interesting how that happened with Sirhan being 10 feet in front of him and facing him. How did he get shot in the back of the ear? Anyway, that's in the audit. But this is what you want. You want these guys to come and fight your war for you. You want to use their planes to fly your drugs into the country and into universities, which are the number one consumers of your drugs. It is just that simple. It is Iran-Contra. We'll go back. We'll show that how Tyler Robinson has had 5 years of ROTC from high school all the way through college. They're completely unknown. And with people like Bill Barr giving out Nobel Prizes in journalism, you'll never get to the story, right? You'll never get to the story because unlike his reporting of leaving out Epstein, leaving out himself, leaving out Bill Clinton, leaving out shorting the laundry and Iran-Contra, right? He will only report on how Reagan gave TOW missiles to Iran. That's the only thing that you're ever going to find out from Bill Barr is just how to make the president look bad, right? And keep the CIA's nose clean out of this. If you want to know where this starts from, there's Zelensky and there's Greg Cox. There's the bromance right there. And you can see we go to all the places. We burn the shoe leather. We go to the various individual places. And I just shot these videos this morning, and I'll play a couple here. Okay, George Webb back here. Let me know if you can hear this, by the way. At the shooting site, I'm from not this perch, not that perch, but this perch right here. So people asked me last night, go to the possible different sniper perches. So that's what I'm doing. But I think the why in this may be getting a little bit lost. But anyway, it's the Ukraine war, and Charlie he's making a turning point on this tour, talking about the Ukraine war and cutting funding for the Ukraine war. But I want to make sure I get the perches. You can see the low-C center. Again, a long shot. And then I'll go down here a little bit. You can see these stairways and so forth. And then there's these crevices and so forth in here. But the big idea that I was trying to make when I was talking to all these organizations that purport to be trans, They're not. And this is people, armed queers in Salt Lake City, threatened to murder me. So I did a little bit of research, and it's not. It's transitioning gamers to mercenaries. It's transitioning gamers to mercenaries. And I'll keep walking to give people a different perspective on all the different angles. But it really is about transitioning people off Steam, these Halo players. We know who we want to target for recruiting for the mercenaries. They're the people in ROTC, but we can't overtly, through an overt program, recruit them. So they use this trans to transition. They use this trans cover to transition those people for the Ukraine mercenary program. You saw the messages between Crook supposedly and his quote-unquote lover. That's actually a recruiting point in St. George. That's a recruiting sort of, like Mary Kay meeting, where they have people from all over, all different states. It's a recruiting meeting. And you're talked into doing these overseas foreign missions if you're Mormon, and you go to Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago, and so forth, or Brazil. It looks like Tyler Robinson might have done the Brazil route, not the Trinidad route. But then from there, you go on and do your real mission as a Ukraine mercenary. Now, I'm going to get to the other things, but I just think this is really important. The head of all queers is Hezbollah. She's Hezbollah. The head of all queers, the other second in command, is Mujahideen. That looks much more like a Ukraine mercenary recruiting organization or somebody recruiting for Syria than it does somebody who's looking for love in all the right places or wrong places. I don't know how to say it. But the messages that you saw yesterday, the Harlequin romance messages going back and forth, my love, my love, my love, and here's all the confession. Remember that his phone, Tyler's phone, was in the possession of Mike Taylor, Mike Robinson, no relation, Mike Robinson of Washington County. And there's a period they put no timestamps on those Harlequin romance messages. And my point is that if I'm running the program, if I'm Mike Robinson, deputy sheriff down in Washington County, and I'm running the program to recruit all these kids out of the ROTC and transition them like crooks, transition them like Ruth was doing over to being snipers or demolition, also demolition people in Ukraine. I want to do it through a third party, and I want to do it through a Discord service. The whole introduction of the rifle, you're going to find that it doesn't match the bullet, and they won't find the bullet. They won't find the autopsy, right? These are key things. The reason is the rifle is introduced later. Grandpa's rifle is introduced later. I'm not saying Mike Robinson did it. I'm not saying he went because he knew the Robinsons and he went and got Grandpa's rifle, but you'll find that doesn't match up. The actual rifle was procured somewhere over there in those hills, and it was arranged by the same Discord group. That's being kept from you right now. That same Discord group arranged for the pickup, the drop of the rifle. And this is how they entrap the recruit, right, into future missions. Once you do this mission, you get away with it. We basically own you for life. So anyway, there's some of the spots. You can see some of the purchase, and I'll get to the other purchase today. Okay, there you have it. So I'm going to move on to another video now so that you can see all the different places I was today. So just bear with me for 1 second. And let's go to okay, hello, George Webb at the Charlie Kirk murder scene. You see I'm about halfway to where Charlie Kirk was murdered, under the American flag, about where that yellow pillar or that yellow marking is on that pillar with that drainage. So you can see the distance here. But this is only half the distance. This is like just half the distance of the shot. The shot actually comes off this corner, the low C center here, right there. And you see that convenient ladder right there, right? So you see that perch up there, potentially the perch up there, but I think it's this perch right here. And as we line up on this right here, and they've conveniently parked this thing in between, there is a strip of concrete that kind of leads directly to that corner. So it's almost like a shot guide, if you will. We'll move up the hill a little bit and show you just potential way of getting out. You see all these access ladders. So again, we're not getting into the video that shows how he got to that position. Why wouldn't you show how if we have all the surveillance video of him running from the position, why wouldn't we have the video of him going to it? Again, the text messages with the Harlequin back and forth, my love this, my love that. Here's a complete confession. When you're running from the law, the last thing you probably want to do with your phone is issue a verbose confession. Now, I'm not saying those messages weren't sent from Tyler's phone. I'm not saying that at all. But if I had an illegal recruiting program, recruiting ROTC guys to go be a part of a overseas operation, I would want to send messages to say it was all about transitioning too. I don't want the story coming out that it's transitioning to being a mercenary from being an ROTC. So as you can see, a lot of young folks here, Brigham Young, we were at yesterday, all these different universities, this would be the place. This would be the place. And again, you can see the access here is not that difficult, right? To get to that ladder, to get to this, you see the access is stairway. Again, why not publish the video of how he got where he got rather than just show the video of him escaping, right? What would full transparency look like? Thanks, guys. What would full transparency look like? So you can see a little bit longer shot here. It's a long, long way. It's a long way to Tipperary from this distance. And again, you see back here, I have access, not unusual access. I have access to the roof. Right, a lot of cameras there. Those may have come in after the shooting, blocked off. But again, wouldn't I have cameras of how he got to the shooting position? Lots and lots of stairways, easy access. I was surprised by that. I thought this was going to be like a difficult climb or something. It wasn't. We'll get you more here in a minute. Okay, so sorry about being out of breath, but I'm not Tyler Robinson. Yeah, I'm no relation to Whitney, but let me get you another video here. Thank you for the nice compliment. Let me get you to another video really super quick. And I just want to get all that's the unobstructed long shot. This is the roll escape of Tyler. And I think this is also 82nd Airborne kind of thing. Here we go. Okay, George Webb here on the UVU campus, and you see M20 is your marker. M20 is your marker. And this northeast corner here of this building is where you see that John Wilkes Booth 82nd Airborne jump by Tyler Robinson. So the 82nd Airborne jumps right over there. The shooting spot is just beyond those cameras there now. They've got a whole bunch of cameras there now, not before the shooting, but after. Make sure that citizen journalists can't be here. But anyway, you go forward from those cameras and you see him running behind that building. Again, one mall cop, one grandmother with caution tape, one guy with a drone, one kid with a drone, all the things we said, one Walmart cop, one Walmart greeter. On that roof stops everything. It's easy access too. It has a a walking access, as you can see on that railing, straight to the shooting area. There's no great climbing or anything. He doesn't need the 82nd Airborne jump. But this is the hill he came over, and then he goes into this area right over here. He goes into this area right over here and stashes the gun, supposedly. I think he picks up the gun there, and that's the part that they're not telling you. His Discord group is the one who organized the gun drop for him, his ROTC group. Remember, he's been coming here since 2019 in high school as an ROTC student. So he knows this campus. He's been here many times. He's got many friends here. Even though he doesn't go here, he's got a lot of folks that he's done training with. But I'll show you the John Wilkes Booth 82nd Airborne drop here. The grassy knoll, every time you get in one of these stories, there's always a grassy knoll, right? You just can't avoid it. But you see this drop here. And I'm 6'8". I'm 6'8". I'll just give you an idea how big of a drop that is. We don't know if that's the John Wilkes Booth footprint or not, but there's a depression here, believe it or not. And they put up some, but if you look here, look at the distance up. My reach is 8'6". I'd still there's another 6-7 feet to go here. That's like going to a basketball gym, putting a 4-foot platform on top of a basketball rim and then jumping. He fell at least 10 feet. He fell at least 10 feet like a cat. He bounced like a cat. So he had been taught that roll to land on the weight of the balls of your feet and then give to your shoulder, that 82nd Airborne roll. He learned it somewhere. He learned it somewhere, but that's how he got out. Now, how he got in, probably through this parking garage here. Again, hard to say, but we'll have more for you in a little bit. Okay, so just wanted to get everybody, we'll see these videos again. I just think what was bad is that we hadn't seen these videos up until this, and I think everyone needs to see the videos because you really don't get the full effect here. Let's see. I want to put the escape. Let's see, roll and escape here. I think this is the. Sorry. Let's try this one. Okay, George Webb again, and you see the grassy knoll there, the John Wilkes Booth 82nd Airborne roll location is just on the other side, and then now you see this fence here. If you just walk up this pathway, this is the bush, the burning bush here. It's going to be pretty famous pretty soon. I think this is the burning bush where the rifle goes, and I think the rifle goes right in here. I think the rifle went right in here. That would make sense because he's seen going up this way, up this path, right, a little bit later on, and no rifle. So again, we could use some of the, what do you call it? Surveillance video, maybe, of this area. I'll get in trouble, probably, for this, but he doesn't. See the rifle, and you can see it comes out over here to this construction area. And I think other people have shot videos, but if you go through this, they're redeveloping this. It leads out here. This would have had to have been his escape. I don't think he came up this way. this way. Again. No. Okay, so and he actually went a little bit different direction. So people ask why the John Brown. It's their symbol, not mine. He's the symbol of this group down here that you see right here. They recruit at the state capitol, right? And John Brown's their hero. That's their symbol. And somebody else said, well, you know, it's an easy shot from 200 yards with a 30-06. Well, if you go ahead and get a deer and see what kind of hole gets put in the deer if you shoot a deer at 200 yards. See the kind of hole that comes out the other end of the exit wound, and then compare that to the exit wound that Charlie had. So that's the yeah. I've seen this video. I don't want to really get too much into that, other than right now it's providing the defense so the defense doesn't get. Right now, psychologically, they're trying to get him to confess. Right? We won't give you the death penalty if you confess. The same thing happened in the Koberger case with Idaho 4. We won't give you the death penalty if you confess. And so what we're trying to do right now is provide all the information, because Charlie, I mean, Tyler knows what happened. Tyler knows what happened, how he picked up the gun, right? And he knows he was in a conference with these guys right here in the corner with the rainbow. He knows he was in conference with them. So so he knows that's not his gun that's been introduced. So my point is that if you know that these are the guys that put the gun there, you're thinking in your mind, how do I prove that? If they have the Discord server and they're or the Steam server, and they're going to withhold that information, and they're going to leave me out to dry and say I drove my grandfather's gun up there, now I'm screwed. You know, so how do I get out of this? Maybe I should plead guilty. So all of our effort right now is to get this information out, show how the bullet does not match the gun. There's no bullet. This is the reason why they introduced the gun from his grandfather's place. And so we're concentrating on don't go to trial, put in a not guilty plea, go to trial. And that's our key way to get the evidence out there. Yeah, none of this stuff makes any sense. It makes sense that you'd have a $2,000 scope, but it's obviously been unscrewed and put on to an old gun. You know, there's a lot of mix and match here that don't make any sense. But again, you wouldn't want him to use a gun put together by these guys. Right? You wouldn't want a gun that was put together with the people on the Discord or the Steam pointing back to a conspiracy. You would not want that. You'd want to replace it with some other gun. So that you'd have to put the scope on there in a higgledy-piggledy way, which it was. Let's see, Utah uploading these videos. Yes, I'm not evacuated totally, but I'm trying to get out of Dodge for a little bit. It's just a little, with these guys here, it's just a little dicey right now. So I would like to have a couple of days to breathe. Let's see, have you seen, no, I haven't. Well, again, remember that they get the Harlequin texts. The Harlequin text, you could write a romance with all the love, right? They had his phone for a number of hours, and Mike Robinson, deputy sheriff in Washington County, had his phone for a couple of hours. So if you're, again, you can advertise your program or you can hide your program. You can make it a running confession that sounds like a Harlequin romance, or you can tell the truth. You have your choice. Again, we're trying to show the defense how they have a defense, even though they've been boxed in with some evidence tampering. Same thing happened in Idaho 4. Yeah, we said this yesterday, if you've seen the videos yesterday. Yeah, I don't think he was there he actually went down a different road, and he went on one side of the UVU ROTC building, ROTC building, and I thought he went on the other side of the ROTC building. So I missed it by one street. So I'll get back there and we'll get back there. John Brown was a white abolitionist who believed in ending slavery. That's correct. Yeah, I did play some basketball back in the day. Let's see. Yep, Harper's Ferry. I think we've done 6 in the Harper's Ferry area. Done 6 news gathering charrettes. We've done 55 of them. For people who don't follow us, $75,000 a year endeavor, a loss that goes into it out of yours truly's bank account. So $750,000 of personal investment in this, in citizen journalism. But 6 of the 55 news gathering events we've done in Harper's Ferry. Yeah, go shoot a deer. For all these people saying, oh, it's conspiracy theory, I'm going to go shoot a 30-06 and shoot a deer. Go shoot a deer with 30-06 in your backyard. Or look at bullet holes of exit wounds of what the deer looks like when it goes through the other side. You get a hole like that on the other side, or an elk, right? A 30-06, at least like the coffee can size hole. Where's the coffee can size hole in Charlie Kirk? Where is it? If you're the one saying you shot him with a 30-06, well, why don't you go out and shoot a rack of ham or something with 30-06 and see what it does to it? Matter of fact, we're going to do that. We're going to get a one of those honey baked hams, and we'll have one of our, I think, Carmadoc or somebody shoot it with a 30-06 at 200 yards or 126 yards and show what happens to the ham. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do a live exercise. We're going to show it. And then you'll see that that didn't happen. That didn't happen. So what did happen? At that elevation, chin line up, not so much as neck. Yeah, plus we went back. You saw that one where I was in the middle, the long shot, and there's a big willow tree in the way. It's very obstructed. It's not only a long shot and a hard shot, it's very obstructed. Yeah, we know about this sleeve roll-up guy, but doesn't account for the exit wound and entry wound. So John Brown, a gun club started in Kansas. Thank you. A lot of good videos out today. Thank you. Again, with citizen journalism, you never know what somebody's going to pick up, what somebody's going to see. So you get the slip and slide with profanity. A lot of people don't understand the ground rules, but if you use all caps or use profanity, or you're just cantankerous or whatever, again, it costs us $75,000 a year to do this. So every second's precious, every dime is precious. So you get the slip and slide, the Dundee, Michigan slip and slide, if you break the rules on the comments. Okay. The granddad, let's see if it was fired. Where's the forensics on it was fired, right? You can put a spent shell in a barrel, but does that mean it was fired, right? Where are the forensics there? Yeah, it's reposted the stream. Yep, we went into depth with this yesterday with the video I did yesterday. Yep. You'll see that prolonging the war, one of the best ways of prolonging a war is you take the people on college campuses. Gee, I think this happened once at Kent State, right? Wasn't there a thing called Kent State? I didn't live too far from Kent State. My brother was at Kent State. If people are against the war, wouldn't a good thing to do to take the same soldiers that are fighting the war and shoot the people who are against it? Isn't it just that simple? Wasn't Charlie Kirk turning against the war? Isn't it just as simple as keeping the war going? It just seems like it's as simple as keeping the war going. It just seems so simple to me, but I'm missing something. Why this is hard, but that's okay. I'll keep going. Yeah, why the big Harlequin romance novel back and forth with this confession? You would be trying to get your ass out of there and try to get your gun out of there, right? The Harlequin romance typed in text doesn't make any sense. let's see. There's going to be a public representative so far. I would like, I would like somebody like McDuff or someone like Alex Farmer Jones to like a trial lawyer, not a public defender. Yeah, it's the forensics are incontrovertible. It's amazing that they even went to even go for an indictment here with the forensics that were out there. It was a clear day and all this stuff. Okay, make it as perfect conditions as possible, make it a perfect bullseye, but just shoot a honey baked ham from 130 yards with a 30-06. Why didn't that happen to Charlie? Where's the bullet coming out on the other side? Why didn't the bullet come out on the other side? Why wasn't there a blood spray on the back spatter on the white? There's a big white curtain right behind him. You would have seen the back splatter all over. That shot came from there. You would have all those things. We don't have any of that. As a matter of fact, we're going to do that. We're going to reconstruct the booth. Aaron, let's do this at the studio where we're going to do our forensic studio in Michigan. We'll go out and set this up in Michigan. We'll set up the booth. We'll set up the white canvas. We'll set up the honey baked ham, right? We'll shoot it from 126 yards. We'll measure it exactly, and we'll show you the results. And then we'll say, did that happen? Did that happen? Right? Any chance you, well, I don't know what happened completely. I think what happened is one of the ways to get rid of our resistance on a college campus to the Ukraine war is to use the ROTC officers you've already got there, right? Why don't you just use the ROTC people you're already training on that campus to kill the person who's saying, let's not fight the war? To me, it seems very obvious. The only thing you do in order, if you have a team and you don't want to expose the whole team, you just hang one of the shooters out to dry. Don't meet him, don't pick up his weapon, cut off his messages, and just hang him out to dry. Well, there's a whole bunch of people that say that it went off to the right of Charlie Kirk, and there's a whole bunch of people said he moved from right to left. You can see that clearly. He didn't move backwards. So show me the spatter pattern on the white canvas behind. Show me the blood spray. Show me the back spatter. There isn't any. None. Let's see. There you go. Harlequin texts. The Harlequin texts is what they are. Oh, love. Let me do this for you, love, and let me do that for you, love, and let me do this for you, love. I mean, they're having trouble. They need better writers. The earpiece popping out of his ear shows that there's impact on that side. There's a shock wave where he's being hit and his earpiece flies. I mean, it's that if it was coming at him this way, right, there would be some kind of entry wound here, and then there would be a big hole like this in his back, right? A coffee can size hole in his back, right? So the earpiece is about where he's hit from the side. Let's see. Then there are other places, but anything that isn't the direct straight on hit means that it's a conspiracy. That's a team. It's an ROTC team. No, he's not scared of the John Brown Gun Club. Or if you haven't read the news, the armed Q group here, the armed Q group is the one who's sending them all the text. They're the ones going on these Halo places, Steam and so forth. They're the ones that are recruiting people over to Discord. They're the ones saying, hey, I know how you can make money in Ukraine as a mercenary, blah, blah, blah. Yes, Valhalla. You got to love Valhalla. Yeah, a lot of meat gone. Well, we'll get somebody who's got some old carrion or something that can't be eaten. We'll get some venison or something that can't be eaten. Okay. I'm going to just go through the questions here quickly. And again, if you want to redo, for all the folks that are saying, hey, this is a front shot, go out in your backyard and get a white canvas and go ahead and shoot it. Carmadoc says you'd have bacon bits. Hey, Carmadoc, we'll buy one of your pigs. Oh, that pig would be perfect. They use pigs for the forensic reenactments. We'll use one of the pigs that's already been slaughtered, and we'll just lay into it from 126 yards. We'll put up the white thing and we'll show you what happens. It ain't pretty. It's big. It's bacon bits. It's bacon bits everywhere. We're going to leave it right there. I got to catch a plane, but we'll leave it at bacon bits.
Coffee. Follow me.